If I could be the eSports version of Leonardo DiCaprio, that'd be great.
We'll clip that up and put that at the start, mate.
You know.
I am the best. Everyone look at me. I'm the fastest in the world.
That's me on a night out.
So as we all know, 2020 has been, none of us are that busy. We're all we've got lots of spare time on our hands. Hence why you're watching this podcast. But this lad here, this guy we're talking to today, he had a very, very busy 2019. I'm going to need a bit of time. I just want to massage his ego a little bit with all his titles. He won the world's fastest gamer in 2019, the eROC champion, won the 2019 Le Mans eSports championship with Veloce, won the 2019 Project Cars individual championship, and he represented the Alfa Romeo eSports Formula 1 team. I'm sure I've missed some stuff as well. James Baldwin, welcome to the podcast. Thank you very much for taking the time, mate. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm pretty, well, not bored, but, I'm sick and tired of being in my house, but aren't we all? So, it's been good, though.
How's the trim doing?
It's dead, mate.
Mine's hidden away. I mean, at least yours is out. It can't be that bad.
Yeah, but if you look, like, my hair's overlapping my ears almost, so that's a sign of a dead trim. So
I mean, obviously you've done racing, right? And no one's hair looks good when you've just taken the helmet off.
I've
seen many of it.
That's true, but sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you take it off and it's like, when Prince Charming takes his helmet off, it's like locks going everywhere. But sometimes it's not like that. So at the moment, I mean, it's been about 7 weeks since I've had a haircut, so
yeah, man.
It's 3 weeks too long.
I was literally, the day before we went into lockdown, I walked past my barber's and I was like, no, I'm going to leave it. It's not quite ready to get done, and now the world's ended. So
literally, yeah.
Sad times, mate.
It's not desperate enough to get like a family member to do it yet, but it's not far away.
You're going to buzz it, do you reckon? Buzz cut?
I might have to.
Was it James Baldo? Was it bald?
By name, by nature.
That was a great. I can't believe I didn't clock that earlier. To be fair, right. So anyway, let's talk about. Well, before we talk about all your success last year and around recently, let's jump back to where it all began, to racing games. So you're an eSports driver. What was your very, very first racing video game that you ever played?
Well, I mean, back when I was a kid, it would have been, I don't even know, probably F1 2000, if that was a game. But, I mean, when I got into this, it would have been Project Cars 1. So that was about 3 years ago now. Okay. And then it just took off from there, yeah. Project Cars 1 was the OG game.
So that was the first time you raced on a wheel?
Yeah, right? yeah, pretty much, yeah.
3 years ago?
Yeah.
Bruv, that's nothing. What the hell?
I know.
I was expecting it to be some like when you were a toddler.
I came out of the womb just on a simulator rig. No, I mean, it's been 3 years, mate.
3 years, man. That's crazy. And I mean, in terms of your kind of background, 3 years isn't a long time, right? And I mean, I remember back in the, my game was the Forza Motorsports, like 3 and 4. That was, I know it's not a sim, but in terms of like
game,
it's still a degree of and it's still like all this stuff. It's still a challenge, and man, I remember moving from pad to wheel was a real struggle. But in terms of being able to pick it up so essentially quickly, do you have like, in terms of karting, in terms of that kind of side of like real life racing as a kid, did you do? Because I've seen on your channel, you posted a little while ago some old karting footage of you.
Yeah.
Like, what's the story in terms of that side of your career?
Yeah, I've done karting for 8 years, and then I did like a bit of car racing for like 6 months, and then that was it. So, I mean, there's quite an advantage. I know it's not gaming, but it's all the same like stuff, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I was quite fortunate in that respect. I mean, I've always played racing games like you, Forza 3 and that, very casually when you're growing up, but when it got to like a serious level, it wasn't even serious when I first started. That was the thing with a wheel. It was just for fun, and then it just escalated, as all things do. Like YouTube and whatever. You always start for a bit of fun, and then it all just takes off, and you're like, whoa. But
when did you realise you were like I'm good at this. Like, I'm very,
What?
very good at this.
Driving or the gaming?
The gaming side of things.
To be fair, the first few months I thought I am really quite, awful. But I'd say 2018, the start of 2018, that's when I thought I could get good at this. Everything started to click. I started to win a few more races. I won some money from a competition. I didn't even think that was possible. I'd say 2 years ago now was when I thought this might be the one.
And then, of course, like, my channel's an F1 channel, but of course, like, your eSports stuff that isn't, restricted to just that. So you've raced a lot of different, types of cars, both in the digital and real realms. But what would you say is your kind of favorite discipline to drive? And what's your kind of favorite discipline as well to like watch as a viewer?
I mean, F1 to watch, of course. I think I'd be surprised if many people said otherwise. I'm a big fan of eSports, obviously, but nothing quite fills that void at the moment. There is Formula One. I'm missing it like crazy. I don't know if you are. You must be.
Obviously, I think this is helping the growth of my channel though a little bit because everyone's like desperate. So I'm just striking while the iron's hot. But yeah, it's tough, isn't it, mate? Silver
linings. But in terms of driving, I do like everything. I do really enjoy rally or rallycross.
Yeah.
Don't get to do it enough because they're not really involved with esports too much. But I'm a bit diverse. I don't really mind. I mind a bit of everything. I do enjoy a bit of everything.
So back to when you kind of first started, so Project Cars, your first proper rig. What was the rig? What was the setup when you first started? Got a wheel? What was it? A Logitech, whatever G, blah blah blah. What was your setup?
It was actually this rig over here. So the GT Omega. I don't even know what it's called. But it had a Logitech, as you said, mounted to it, and it had a little TV at the end of the room on a desk. So, I went in quite hot. Usually people start off with a desk and the worst wheel you could think of. But I think it was like 400 quid.
Oh, you went in? Nice. Yeah, I remember I used to have like my rattly old desk, and every time I'd on Forza, I was really good on a pad, and then I got a wheel, and because my feet had never been involved in my video gaming my whole life, I had to drive like, I could only set good lap times in four-wheel drive cars where you don't have to worry so much about, lift off, oversteer or whatever. But
no, man, it was on the TV as well. So that made a huge difference when I got a monitor. But that was it was at a different house because we moved recently, and at the time it was for fun. So I was missing that void, obviously, from karting for 8 years and then racing for 6 months and then not doing anything. It was like, what am I going to do, like, to keep that competitive edge? So got the rig, and just one thing led to another.
So how old were you when you jumped into the kart for the first time?
I was 8.
8, and then in terms of that side of things, was it something you just nagged your parents to let you do, and eventually they caved in? Were your parents into motorsport? Is there any kind of friends and family that are involved there?
I mean, what was it? 8th birthday, Dad just thought, I'd take him go-karting, nothing serious, no motorsport links whatsoever. I mean, he used to work in the Navy, so that's not really motorsport at all. And then I liked it, did quite well, beat a few lads who'd been before on my first time. So I think we just went again, and we went every Sunday, I think, for the first year. It was in Aylesbury, which is where I live now, and just some indoor go-kart track. And again, just led to another, looked at outdoor karting. Well, it's not too expensive when you go at a certain level. So we bought a car, and then, just did it for 8 years. And it was brilliant, not only for the driving, but we went all over the country, met loads of people and all that kind of stuff. And for me as a kid, I mean, some really great memories from that. So, it was good.
And in terms of like, do you remember what your kind of thought process was when you were doing karting at those early stages, in terms of like, was it always just for fun, or did you have genuine ambitions to,
nah, mate,
shit, I can maybe make this as a career?
I thought I was going to be a Formula One driver, right? and it's gone badly wrong. It's gone a bit pear-shaped, but from
badly wrong. Would I say badly wrong? I wanted to be a Formula One driver, and now I'm sat here making top 10 videos on YouTube. But it's fine. It went badly wrong for you as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's not worked out for the pair of us, but I honestly thought, when you're a kid, you're very naive, aren't you? So
Of course.
I thought, what could be. I thought maybe F1, if not, IndyCar, something like that. But then you get to like 13, 14, you start to become a bit more conscious, and you realise, okay, there's money, there's so many other people trying, there's so many more talented people out there probably doing it, So very quickly it went from, I'm going to be an F1 to you're going to stop karting. So, yeah.
What was because obviously you've demonstrated that you do have a knack for driving, because, and we'll discuss this a bit more later, but in terms of like the input and why I think motorsport, eSports is doing so well, particularly obviously at the moment, is that the input is no different essentially, right? You've got the wheel, you've got the pedals, you can simulate 90, the G-force obviously isn't there, but in terms of that side of things, you've obviously got a knack for it. So when you were karting, were you, right up until you kind of stopped, was it more the financial side of things that was like, I'm not gonna, like, I don't think I'll make, because you've clearly got ability, or was it that you just didn't feel good, like in terms of confidence? Was that a thing?
I mean, money was huge, like obviously like a massive limitation, but I think, to be honest, I was winning the majority of karting I was doing, but I still don't think I was as good then as I am now, I think because of sim racing. But the level I was at, if I was to get noticed, I should have been dominating, and I wasn't dominating. So I think that may have contributed to it. I mean, the thing is, it's one of them industries, if you don't go in and go hard, you will go home. Mm-hmm. So if you're not in at a really, really high level and spending lots of money, not many people are going to look at you. So,
no.
Unfortunately, money was the main factor.
That's the thing, because motorsport does have such a unique kind of high barrier to entry, doesn't it?
It does, man.
Just having the talent isn't anywhere near enough. You need this whole plethora of circumstances to come together in your favour.
Yeah.
But I guess one of the things that, and again we'll talk more in a bit about kind of your moves into real racing cars and how that's come about. But obviously the big kind of difference is that, when you're racing in a sim, whether it's the most realistic sim in the world, there is no danger. You're always going to be safe. Doesn't matter what you hit, whatever. Obviously in real racing, as has been highlighted, quite recently, obviously with Antoine Hubert's death last year, and we don't see it enough in motorsport, because it used to happen all the time, and now it rarely does. But the danger is really present. How do you do you attribute your ability to drive a real car very, very quickly to those early years in karting? Because there's that bravery, right? There's that, they talk about racing drivers having this kind of different mindset where they're just able to put the danger aside and go for it. Like, where does that come from you? Because again, a lot of people from the outside would be, how is someone who's just an eSports driver able to apply that in the real world, because of that part of your brain that you can't control, if you know what I mean? Yeah,
that's a good point. You're basically right anyway. I mean, the bravery and the feeling and the confidence comes from the karting years, no doubt about it. I mean, because you're right, it's completely different. But the technique and the understanding and kind of the psychological side of it and how to be quick is come from the sim. So I've put the two together when I'm on the track, and it does seem to work. So, but it's fortunate for me, because obviously I've done karting, but there are examples out there of people that are quick who didn't do karting. So everyone's different. If I didn't do karting, I'm pretty sure I'd be pretty trash on a rig. So it's different strokes for different folks, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you're right, the way you say it.
Yeah, it's because so I was obviously watching through some of your stuff over the last couple of days in preparation for this. So I'm nice and prepared, and
Thank you.
I'm not like, who are you, mate? I don't know who you are. So what I found quite particularly interesting was the world's fastest, the eROC championship that you competed in last year, and you've raced against Brendan in the final. Actually, first of all, is Brendan an ex-karter? Like,
nah, definitely not. No,
he's not at all.
No, nothing.
But obviously, he was still able very much to apply that to the real thing. But for you, in order to kind of to win that, and then was it so after you beat Brendan, you then raced against someone else and then won? So can you go, because that was a professional driver, right?
Yeah. I think it's. I do know his name. It's just because he was Mexican. But I
remember the flag.
Raul Garcia. I've just woken up, so yeah. I think it's. I don't know. I can't remember his name. It's Garcia, Ruben Garcia Jr.
Yeah,
that's it.
Right. Okay.
Mexican NASCAR champion, and we both were put into an aerial atom. Both of us had not driven the car once, so when we were on TV, that was our first times driving the car, and I pipped him by 3/10. So, the thing was, when I was driving around, I was thinking, oh mate, I've absolutely screwed this, because I had about 10 oversteer moments. I almost spun coming out of a corner, and I thought, he's definitely absolutely thrashed me. Come across the line, and he's still in the last corner. I was like, oh my god. So, yeah,
smashed it, guys. Fair play. Well, so obviously I mentioned at the start of this that you had a very busy 2019 in particular, but obviously for everyone who hasn't seen your recent successes, could you step through like how the year went, almost like step by step, just in terms of what you achieved, and maybe the things that you didn't as well, like the events that you went to and you weren't so successful at throughout kind of last year.
Sure, man. So eROC, which I won in January, and then Project Cars, the World Championship in May, which I won the individual championship at Veloce, my team, because there's 2 per team, we came second. Le Mans eSports, which we won as Veloce, 3 of us, me, Dave, and a guy called Noah. Then I joined an F1 eSports team. I tried to get a race seat. I didn't quite get the race seat, so I was put into a test role. So they gave me time to go and do World's Fastest Gamer. So I ended up winning that. Went to the FIA Motorsport Games in Rome straight after. So I flew from America to Italy, and I came 4th in that on Gran Turismo. So I think that was pretty much it. So I mean, it was a mad year, absolutely mad. I mean, first of all, I didn't even know there were going to be that many competitions across the year. But then to go and do so well in so many of them, not being funny, I mean, I did well, but I got fortunate on many occasions, so it just fell into place 2019. But it was mad. It was mad, and I don't expect this year to be as good in many respects. I mean, it's already started off to a pretty shoddy start, hasn't it? But it was a good year, and it's put me on a platform which I can go forward with. So, yeah,
absolutely. Because obviously you've spoken as well. I see budding YouTuber in your Twitter bio. In terms of the YouTube side of things, is that something you always wanted to do? Is that something that you foresee in the future being something a bigger focus for you? What's your kind of outlook on that?
I mean, initially no, because I don't know. I've always, I mean, at school and that, I was a very, you would never have looked at me and gone, he's going to be a YouTuber, because I was quite quiet, reserved. I would never have wanted to walk around with a camera, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I mean, I started it. It didn't really take off for the first, because I started it in March last year, and it didn't really take off for a while. And I was like, okay. But then I realised what you could do with videos, and I started editing myself, and it was quite satisfying. So I thought, I'll keep on doing it. And then I think it was F1 2019, I did some videos on that. They kind of banged. And and when I came back from, I think it's Fastest Gamer, I thought I'd love to put more time and effort into this. So if I could get an editor who, 1, could do it quicker, and 2, do it with better quality, then it might go somewhere. And over the last couple of months or few months, it's been pretty decent, like yourself. But you obviously do the editing yourself, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess you've got a very unique proposition, right? You've got a real, like, well, I was going to ask this later, but I'll ask this now. To be, I don't think it's unreasonable to say that you're one of the best esports racers in the world.
Stop it.
Like, that's that from a content point of view is obviously a very unique position to hold. So you can create, like, not anyone could, in theory, pretty much anyone could make the content I make, for example, because I'm just waffling and making lists and shit. Whereas, like, you've obviously got that unique proposition, which I think holds you in fantastic stead long term, because you can offer something that only a very, very, very select few people can.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the question is, how does that feel to be, like, you are what, like, you've got to recognize that you are one of the top 10 drivers in the world comfortably, if not higher. You know what I mean? Like,
I'll tell you what, the title, I know what you mean. The title "World's Fastest Gamer" has a lot of it gives
connotations.
Yeah, it gets you a long way. So, you know,
I'm the best. Everyone look at me. I'm the fastest in the world. Fuck you all.
Yeah, that's me on a night out. Look at me.
Thought so. Do you wear your overalls when you go on a night out?
Absolutely.
WFG2, bitch.
I think everyone just look at me and think, what a weirdo. So basically, when I went off to America for Fastest Gamer, my YouTube was very small. Came back, and with the title, I could go to people like, you know, Jimmy Broadbent, Super GT, Tyrrell Limitless, all these big guys, and but maybe they would have, maybe they wouldn't have. I don't think they would have done a video of me previously,
No.
but they did after. And not only did they do a video with me, they made a video for it for their channels. So that was massive. I mean, Super GT, when he put his video up, over the next 12 hours, I think I got like 1,000 subs. So it's different gravy. So I mean, that does have a lot of weight behind it. But in terms of the content I can produce, I mean, having the knowledge to give tips and stuff for driving, it is cool. It is really cool. The hardest thing is staying at the top, because every month or week even, it gets more competitive in the scene. So, you know, I'm constantly having to practice and stuff to stay at the top. So yeah, it's cool. It's just, it's very strenuous.
Imagine it's very intense, because like, you are essentially, you're on a par with any top athlete in any sport, right? Because and you have to have that freak level of dedication and determination to remain there. I mean,
exactly.
in terms of the eSports grid, and obviously I'm sure you've got to know, you know, the guys at the top very well. Who's the kind of Cristiano Ronaldo who has that freak level of, like, dedication that no one else can match?
Ooh. I mean, everyone's very dedicated, otherwise they wouldn't be there. I don't know, to be fair. I don't like singling people out, because, I mean, it's another way of saying they're a massive sweat bag, you know, in many ways. But I know a few people that put a lot, and I mean, we all put a lot of hours in, but I know a few people that put a absolute unhealthy amount of hours, but it works for them and they're quick from it. So I won't name names, but I have a few in my head.
Yeah, fair enough. I think, obviously, that's the thing. That approach will work for some, but also doesn't work for everyone. I mean, just because Lando and Max are always on a sim and Lewis isn't, for example, in real F1, doesn't mean Lewis is any worse a driver than them, because,
no,
you know,
if anything, you just prove the opposite, you know.
Exactly. So it's each to their own. But okay, so in terms of go back to your kind of esports foundation. So again, when you started Project Cars and you first got how aware were you of esports as kind of an industry?
I was aware. I didn't really watch any of it. I knew big COD teams and FIFA teams and stuff, but I mean, yeah, it wasn't really on my radar. I wasn't too involved. I mean, racing wasn't really in esports. It only was, I suppose, F1 eSports, the second series, I'd say, was when it properly kicked off. So, yeah, this is all kind of still new to me in many ways.
Absolutely. And then in terms of teams that you raced in those Project Cars days, Did you race in any prior to Veloce?
Yeah, man.
And if not, when did so who were they?
I was like the eSports driver version of a prostitute, because I kept on going from one team to another to another. It was all over the gaff.
You
but
big whore.
So I started off in a team called, because I knew very early on to get in a team is very important, because you meet people, you learn stuff, and you are pushed by people as well. So I went from Team Momentum, was the first team I joined. Not sure if they're running anymore. I went to a team called F4H. No, I missed a team out here. I joined THR, then Team TM Motorsport, then F4H. I was at F4H for a while. I won some money with F4H. They were quite a big team. They're now called Lazarus, if you've heard of them. And
I've heard of F4H from the Forza days, because I know Super GT. I remember him. There was a few leaderboard time trials that I was like get close to him, but never quite.
Yeah. There. And then Veloce. So. And
when did the Veloce call come? Do you remember like what that kind of process was? Because I think that a lot of people are aware of kind of esports teams and that who are watching, but in terms of the step, so was it like an email and then you spoke to them, and then did you do some like test races or whatever? How did that process kind of unfold?
But it was very simple. I came second in a competition on Project Cars 2 in Austria, won $4,000 from it. And then I was working at an engineering firm at the time. So I was on the machine, on my phone, kind of skiving. And I got a Twitter message come through from Jamie from Veloce saying, "Hi James, Veloce eSports team manager here. Doing a phone call about joining our team or whatever." So I phoned him. And after about 3 or 4 calls, because when you get to this level, there are contracts. So it's not just, oh yeah, I'll join. So I saw the contract, went into their HQ in London, was kind of blown away by it all, the seriousness of it. And then after a while, signed the contract and joined. So, not too long, not too short of a process, but...
And then how does that, obviously, I don't expect you to dive into too many details, but in terms of like, is it a typical like work? Because I've worked full-time, I've worked freelance, I've worked contract. Like, is it just I don't know, like how is it different to a typical work job from that side of things?
It's not really. I mean, the contract's still like that thick. So there is a lot of stuff, a lot of kind of bullshit, like a lot of small print.
Of course, yeah.
But, the roles and responsibilities are very different and very weird when you look at them. Like your job title is a gamer, so that's, again, quite weird. But... yeah, it's honestly more normal than you think. The only thing that really took me by shock, because when I first went to Veloce at the time in 2018, again, racing esports was kind of nowhere. I went to London, and there was like a 3-story building where there was people working, on all floors doing, content on one floor, and then working on the simulator on the bottom floor. It was just unbelievable compared to what I've seen previously with other teams where it's all just online and you're talking to friends and stuff. This took it to the next level, so I thought, I've got to join, just because it looks mad.
I imagine being in that environment must, inspire you to do more, for sure. Yeah,
and even now, like, I kind of take it for granted now a little bit, and I think all the drivers do, because we're just used to it, but initially you're like, what? I mean, to have a house like that in central London anyway is like, it must cost some dollar.
So we discussed a little bit earlier about the barrier to entry of motorsports, and this was actually something I literally just thought about it yesterday, and I put a question out there on Twitter in terms of, do we think that there's the potential going forward, because of how good sim rigs are now, and again, like guys like yourself and Brendan, like you said, Brendan had never really driven real cars, but was still able to almost make that transition to an extent. Do you think that particularly for younger people, because karting is expensive and all that almost esports and sim racing could essentially replace karting for a lot of kids in terms of those who are coming up through the ranks, because it's so much more accessible than the financial expenditure and the travelling and all of the, all of that comes with karting, essentially? Yeah, I mean,
at this stage, I'd say... If you weren't going to do karting because you never had the opportunity, or you're never going to be financially able to, then go into esports, because what else is there? This teaches you how to drive. The only thing it doesn't give you is that physical aspect, and dealing with people so much. But if you have the opportunity to do both, I'd still do both, because there are things karting does give you that esports doesn't. But esports, I mean, this time in 20 years, I'm guessing that esports will be a bigger route into motorsport than karting, or maybe even, I mean, esports might even be bigger than motorsport, full stop. So it's definitely changing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a weird, because I feel like, well, obviously even now you've got, again, like guys like Lando and Max, who obviously are very much involved in the esports side of things, or not just the sim racing side of things. But I think in like 10 years, I think every single rookie who's coming up will have had massive exposure to sim racing at some point. But it's just interesting, I think, the conversation, because it is such it's not football. You can't just pick up a cart for a couple quid and then drive around your back garden and get good. No. You know what I mean? Whereas like a football, you can just pick up and you can do a lot. It's such a low barrier to entry. But I just think it's an interesting. I think I might do a video on it actually, like just kind of talking about all the pros and cons.
The thing is, motorsport is it's on the downward trend in terms of. I mean, Formula One obviously is thriving, and it always probably will because it is Formula One. But if you look at motorsports like categories around it, it's not looking too good. So, and esports on the other hand is on that way. So it's I mean, in 10 years' time, 10 years is a long time, man. So as we discussed earlier, 3 years ago, where was I? So a lot can happen in a small space of time. So let's wait and see.
Absolutely. And then obviously talking about the current world situation where we're all stuck indoors, and there's been so much esports coverage, not just in Formula One. You've got the supercars. I don't know have you seen any of the V8 supercars stuff?
What? iRacing?
Yeah. So good. Like the coverage, I think, is absolutely spot on. It feels like the real thing.
It's mad, isn't it? Yeah.
They've done such a good job. But obviously, I think it's fair to say that as awful as the world situation is, it's accelerated esports, I think, in terms of pushing it into the mainstream. But how much of a positive impact do you think it's actually had? Like, has it put it 2-3 years ahead of where it would have been?
Oh, it's massive, isn't it? I mean, it wouldn't have. If this didn't happen, then esports, or racing esports in particular, that we wouldn't be as big as we are now. The last 4 weeks or whatever have been absolutely huge. Obviously, no one wants this to happen because it's a horrible situation. But I'm guessing, where do we go from here? I mean, the only problem I'd say there is it's very saturated at the moment. There's a lot of events, on a lot of different games, a lot of streams, a lot of people doing the same thing. So I think it's very key here to, with the big events, make sure there's loads of quality and not too many of them, as opposed to putting, 12 to 15 different events on at the same time with low quality streams. Because, I mean, an outsider coming in, it's very fragmented. So there's this going on. I don't know how anyone could understand what's going on when there's like 15 different championships on the go. So I think there needs to be a little bit more structure. But I mean, in terms of exposure alone, this has been huge for racing esports.
And I think they'll learn so much as well. Like you say, it is very fragmented and there's so much going on. But the sheer quantity of streams and events that are taking place, and they're all learning experiences. And yes, the world's in a weird place, but the fundamentals are no different to how it would be when the world's back to normal, right? It's still loads of people sitting in sim rigs at home or in a space or wherever, racing online. So that fundamental is no different, which again I think is a very unique thing in motorsport, because the input is no different to the real thing, and no sport matches that. No sport matches that, apart from, I don't know, any other sport where you'd use like a simulator, like air racing. Like if you're a professional football player, that has zero correlation to your ability on FIFA.
Yeah.
If you're, you know what I mean? Like, whereas you've proven the fact that you've only been doing this for 3 years and you're already at the level you are, that, that real life karting experience, like Jenson Button in a lot of these e-races has been smashing it.
Yeah.
And Charles Leclerc immediately. He wasn't a big online racer straight away. He's like, well, I don't know. There's
quick,
been a lot saying that he's like almost on par with you guys.
He's not far away, which is quite concerning, to be fair. But yeah.
but again, like the same for you. Like you've only been doing it 3 years. You were karting all that time before. Like it's almost, you could apply the same. It feels like there's that same link, right?
There's a massive link, yeah. And you know, you're right. FIFA, Call of Duty. I mean, no one goes to war like that, do they? So it's the only one that you can kind of blur the lines on.
And then obviously, you know, going forward, for both yourself and the industry. Again, I know we said 10 years is a long time, but where do you see the industry in 10 years, and where do you see your career in 10 years? Do you see it still sim racing? Do you see it real racing? Do you see it more YouTube?
It's a good question, Tomo.
That's what I do, mate. That's what I do.
You deliver the good questions. I mean, I got asked the other day, 5 years, where do you see yourself? And I don't even know where I see myself in a year, mate. I mean, the industry in 10 years, I just see it where it is now, but with bigger audiences. You know, people have bigger followings, more money involved, more sponsors involved, just a bigger platform. I don't see how it's going to go down because it's going up. I don't see any reason for that to stop. Yeah, it will have a few like eureka moments, like, you know, this particular moment, you know, with the coronavirus going on has been a massive spike. I think there will be a few moments like that across the way or along the way. But myself, I don't know how long a sim racer's career can last. I mean, 10 years is a long time. So
yeah, how long do you reckon you'll be able to maintain it at the top? And I guess, are you able to look at other, not just esports, but other professional gamers in other disciplines? Like, at what age did they tend to start to fall off? Because again, a lot of like, you know, the pro COD players, you know, with their kind of like twitch reflexes and that, like, when does that start to deteriorate almost?
I'll tell you what it is, right? Is in real racing, you don't have to sweat that hard because, you know, there's limited testing. What am I trying to say? There's limited testing, there's limited sessions, there's a race, obviously, you know, according to the calendar, but you're not sat at home sweating for hours trying to get on the pace. So you just turn up, do your business, and it's, you know, that's it. Whereas eSports, you're, you know, 8 hours a day, or maybe more in some cases, trying to be on the pace for an event, practicing like crazy, looking at a screen as well, which isn't always good for you. I don't think they'll last that long in terms of professional careers. I don't think it's going to be like, you know, Verstappen, for example, in real Formula One, is going to be from 16 till probably mid-30s, if not longer. I don't think it's going to be like that. I think, you know, 5 years, something like that, maximum. Yeah. So I don't see myself playing in esports anymore in 10 years' time. Maybe in a manager role, maybe with my own team, maybe, I don't know. But I'd think, you know, what would I be, 32 years old? I'd still hope I'd be real racing if I can make this opportunity work. I don't see why I can't be real racing because it's a different thing altogether. It's less intense. You're not looking at a screen, etc. So, you know, a real racing driver as a manager, that sounds quite good.
I think that there's plenty of examples of real racing drivers who are still slapping it well into their 40s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and so I think that makes sense.
But then you see, you know, the sim racer Gregor Huttu, for example, mid-40s, I think he is, on iRacing, and he's still near the front. You know, he's probably not as good as he once was, but still, he can still make a living from it, from being really good on sim racing. So it's just, not only would you deteriorate, I'm not sure I'd want to do it in 10 years. I don't know.
To maintain that level of intensity
and enthusiasm is going to be tough.
Yeah.
And, you know, I might be married with kids. Who knows? Who knows?
You might be, but then that might be a nice escape.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, true.
Piss off, kids. I'm on the sim rig tonight.
Yeah.
But so you say about potential management. I mean, this jumping into this and making this a career and seeing all that, again, the really impressive Veloce headquarters and all that. That business side of esports, how is that? Because I find that super interesting. I find that more interesting than the actual watching it itself, to be honest. Because I just think like this whole anywhere where a new industry has just sprung up over such a short period of time, from the early like Quake little LAN streams that they used to do like back in the 90s, like how interesting have you found that business side of esports?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's not really what I'm in it for, but it's quite cool when you really see behind the scenes of Veloce, for example. You see how it's working, and the deals they're getting and stuff like that. It's cool. It is really cool, and part of me does want to kind of get involved with it. It's not my strong suit, but it's I don't even know what to fucking say now. I just had a mind blank. My mind's just gone like.
No, you're perfectly. You're the one who wanted to do this early, James. No, because ultimately you are perfectly positioned to be exposed to all of this kind of side of things, right? And I think management would be sick. What's it? Baldo eSports, maybe.
Well, I mean, I've seen, Wolf of Wall Street and stuff like that. That looks quite cool. So if I could be the eSports version of Leonardo DiCaprio, that'd be great.
Sweet. We'll clip that up and put that at the start, mate. Cool, man. So I think in terms of racing questions, that's good for now. Let's have a little deep dive into you, the James behind the Baldwin. I guess first. So before this all happened, and you mentioned you worked in engineering, what was your kind of like path from kind of school to college? Did you go to uni? Did you just go straight into work? And what exactly industry were you working in before this all happened?
Left school and I went into motorsport mechanics. So I was a Formula.
Same.
Really?
Well, I did motorsport engineering at college for 2 years.
Oxford.
And then I went. No. So I did it. I did it before university. So I did it. It was like, it was called the Thames Gateway Academy in like East London.
Oh, fair enough.
But yeah,
nice one.
But yeah, I was potentially going to go Oxford Brookes and do motorsport, but I ended up doing product design instead. But anyway, carry on.
Yeah, went into motorsport mechanics at the Silverstone College. Joined a Formula 3 team. Was like a junior apprentice mechanic for like a year and a half. Probably the worst period of my life, because it was just brutal hours, working around senior mechanics. They don't treat you that nicely.
That can be a toxic industry in place at times, can't it?
Yeah, it was a shock. It was a shock. Me and my family, because obviously not really motorsport related, they were like, it'd be great, you'd be around cars, you'd learn about them, you'll love it. Absolutely hated it. But I mean, aside from that, I learned a lot. And it kind of hardened or toughened me up for, I suppose, working life going forward. So when I left there, I joined my engineering firm, which I was with till last August. And I joined them in 2016 just as a CNC machinist. So I was doing, again, an apprenticeship. So at college at the same time as doing work. So that was good. I really actually enjoyed that. I was progressing quite well. Was just about to go and do a university degree. And then eSports kind of, I think it was the month before eROC, so I just turned down the degree and went into eSports. So I was doing both, self-employed for about 8 months, and then I left them full-time and just went full-time eSports. So that's kind of been my path since school. It's been very weird. You could have never have predicted it, but it's been good. It's been good fun. I've learned a lot.
Yeah, I think it's important to emphasize to anyone watching, like people will look at someone like you or anyone who's had like a degree of success and think it's just a kind of always just been a straight uphill like achievement. But like you said, you could never have predicted where you are today, and I'm sure like those experiences that you've hated, you look back and like it all adds to you, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean some motorsport mechanics. I remember. On race week, it was just like 15-hour days, come home, sleep, back to work, consistently. And I remember on like the fourth night, I had a whole race weekend ahead of me. I'd already done like 3 15-hour shifts. You don't get paid extra. It's not really good money. It's kind of not the work I expected. It wasn't great, washing wheels and stuff. I mean, commendable, but just I thought there'd be more to it. And I remember coming home and just, crying my eyes out because I just thought, this is absolutely dog shit. But it's all part of that early working life, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got to have those trials and tribulations in order to learn and grow.
Exactly.
Like we all do. Interesting. So, and then you kind of alluded to earlier as well about when you were younger and you never would have pictured yourself, or no one would have said, "Oh, he's going to be a YouTuber."
Definitely.
So what were you like at secondary school? That period of your life, because the reason I always ask this, because that's such a, when you go from 11 to 15, 16, whatever it is, you change so much. Like, how was that period of your life?
I'd probably say the one word to describe me was frigid.
Same.
Nah, it was weird. I was like one of the popular kids in year 7. Then that slowly changed, and I ended up being one of the most unpopular ones by year 11. So, had a few girlfriends along the way, which was nice. And then, actually, I had about 3 or 4 in my early school years, and then in year 10,
go on, Jamesy.
I hooked up with a girl that I'm still with today. So
amazing.
Yeah, it's been, what's it been? 7 years.
Wow. Congratulations, buddy. That's incredible. That often doesn't happen.
No, I again wouldn't have expected it at the time. I thought this might be just a quick fix, but obviously not.
Amazing, mate. That's
cool.
That's very unusual. I don't know many of none of my mates are with their childhood sweethearts, so that'll be nice.
No, it's good. Obviously, both changed a bit since school, but school was it's good. I always look back and think I'd love to go back to school just for a week now with all the people, see what it's like.
Yeah. So obviously, in terms of your kind of personal relationships and friends, family, all that kind of stuff, and obviously having people understand what you do because you work in but also it be so kind of intense in terms of the amount of hours and time you have to put in. How has that kind of affected things? Like, do your family understand what it is you do, essentially?
To start with, they didn't.
Did it take much explaining? No, I can imagine.
And friends and girlfriend, when I first started, they were like, wow, you're putting a lot of hours into this, mate. You're a bit sad. What the hell are you doing? But when it started, money started being won, and I started buying some proper equipment and whatever, joined a team, social media started to grow, then they understand it a bit more. They start to research it a bit more.
Once you get those bills out, and they're like, okay, yeah, we understand that. We understand.
Nah, my dad, he loves it. I think he knows more about it than I do now. So,
oh, that's sweet. That's nice.
Yeah, so
they've all been really supportive in that.
Yeah, everyone's very supportive. To be fair, even on YouTube, the comments I get, I rarely get someone that is negative. So it's good. I think everyone understands it. I think everyone's really interested by it.
And how do you kind of deal with the pressure? And that's just both within actually racing, because obviously these are very intense times, whether it's all of these kind of championship finals and you've been working up to this stage, but also how do you deal with the pressure of kind of being a known figure out there? People comment on you, people care, sometimes you get a bit of hate like we all do. How do you deal with that kind of pressure? Has that had a in terms of your mental health side of things?
I mean, the pressure of the races, it's almost second nature. You still get nervous, but you manage it, because I've been racing since I was 8. You do find a way in your head to kind of channel that pressure into performance. But the YouTube side of things, when there has been negative comments and stuff, that is a different thing altogether. It took a bit of getting used to. Initially, I just wanted to reply saying, "Oh, you're a knobhead. I'm flipping." You want to reply with something quite nasty. But obviously that's the worst thing you can do. So I'd say the title World's Fastest Gamer as well, it's been obviously amazing, but a few people coming in outside have been like, wow, he's not won that race. That doesn't make any sense. How can he be the world's fastest gamer if he's not won that race? And it's like, there's a bit more context to it than that. So there's a bit of pressure. The racing side of it is fine. The other side of it, I'm still getting used to.
Yeah, exactly. Like being in the public eye. Because one thing I do think that will change in esports going forward, I think you guys will be so again, we look at like Drive to Survive in Formula One, and I think the power from that came in the storytelling and how it was able to give a real like a genuine insight into these athletes as people. And I think that is the one thing that esports is missing for me the most, is that we're not able, and again, a lot of guys stream and themselves individually, which is obviously great, but I think that kind of human storytelling side of things, I think a lot of people would like to see a lot more of, you know, James Baldwin behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. We're not, you know, the top esports drivers aren't huge. Like, we're still, fairly small, to be fair, compared to, you know, that level of, you know, Formula One driver, etc. But I mean, I think you're right. I think it added an extra kind of dynamic to the scene in the industry. In fact, World's Fastest Gamer have done a TV series on the tournament I was in last October. So when that comes out, which should be in the next month or two, that is going to be like Drive to Survive. So that might be, you know, the Kickstarter for other things to start. So we'll wait and see.
Yeah, because I watched the first season of that actually, so I assumed they'd be bringing another one with you front and
there
centre.
was a camera crew of like 35 people. I mean, it'll be an amazing series. It was insane the amount they put into it.
And that'll do a lot for your profile as well in terms of growing that, I'm sure.
Hopefully, man. I mean, I heard rumours of like, you know, things like Netflix and stuff wanting to buy the thing as a package. So could you imagine something like that going on Netflix? I mean, it'd just be insane.
But that's the thing, this is what I mean, mate, like this is going to happen. Like esports is such a growing industry generally, and that's the thing, it's not just within, again, what's kind of unique about esports is that it's, and I'm sure it will segment once esports becomes really established, because it's still a blanket term, right, for any video game that's played with the best, very best people. But as time goes on, you guys and girls competing will only become more and more prevalent and more mainstream, essentially.
Yeah.
It's coming, mate, so you better get media trained. I'm sure you already have. Actually, I've got to ask you about that. In terms of media training, have you had any of that? Like,
no.
What's that like?
No,
You've not had any?
I remember having interviews towards the end of my karting career. I was obviously, as we all are, pretty rubbish. But you just learn.
Hi, I'm James. Hello, yes.
I literally didn't move my mouth. I was like, "Hi, I'm James. I kart and I won the race." Like, it was a very different way to I talk now. But you just learn. You watch videos. You see how other people do it, and then you try it in the next interview. You mess up. You do it again. Yeah, I mean, I've heard stories actually from drivers saying they've had media training and it's the worst thing that could have happened to them, because it makes them boring. It makes them less interesting to listen to, because they all end up sounding the same. So I'm quite happy with the way it is at the moment.
No, absolutely. Nice.
As long as you're comfortable, isn't it?
And then, yeah, exactly. And that's the whole point, because again, that's what makes you more relatable as a human, because it's human connections. I genuinely feel like I'd kind of fallen a bit out of F1 probably from like until like the end of the 2016 season. It wasn't until like 2017 that I got back into it, and I think a big part of that was the kind of opening up of the drivers being able to put themselves on social media and engage a lot more, because for me that's such, and I think for most people that's such a big part of why should you care that James is racing tonight? Like, why should you care about him? Why should you root for him above all else? Because if you just rooted for the best driver, we'd all just follow Lewis Hamilton, and we'd all just support, you know, Liverpool, and you know what I mean? Like, there's way more to it than that, way more nuance than that, and I think the storytelling is so important.
Yeah, I mean, if it was, you know, the same for everything, then it'd just be boring, wouldn't it? So it's good to have, you know, people supporting him because he's funny, or there's loads more to it in there.
Absolutely. And then, away from work, let's get for this question, completely away from racing, motorsport, all that, what are you passionate about that maybe people don't know? Are you a secret ukulele player? I don't know, mate. What floats your goat?
Well, I mean, I do love a bit of Call of Duty, probably a bit too much.
What was your favourite COD?
The new one, actually, Modern Warfare.
Never played it.
It's mad, mate. It's different. It's unbelievable. But
Modern Warfare, the original Modern Warfare for me.
I was the same, but it's converted me. So as well as that, I do like a bit of football.
Who do you support?
Wycombe Wanderers.
Good lads. Appreciate that. I like that.
So I was going to say Man
Proper
United,
club.
but yeah.
Proper club. Oh, so they're your Glory Hunter club.
Yeah, but I've never seen a game. You know, I used to be a season ticket holder at Wycombe Wanderers, so
Decent.
yeah, they're good. They're on the rise as well. Going out with mates, bit of drinking and that. It's all good fun. So yeah.
Getting on the sesh.
Getting on the
Actually, are
lash.
you a pub or a club guy?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm probably
your
a
vibe?
club guy.
Good lads. Good
What about
lads.
you?
You're great at that, trust me. I'm more. Actually, no. So I'm more of a club guy, but all of my friends are pub. So it's hard for me because I can't just go on my own. Like, that would be incredibly sad.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah, all my mates have got more of a pub vibe. So yeah.
Fair enough.
Shame.
I don't mind a pub.
Shame.
You know, if I had the choice of two.
But yeah, man, so let's jump into the quick fire round. So I have a selection of questions. Some of these are the same as the ones that I've asked previous guests. Some are different. So are you ready?
Yes.
Are you ready, Jamesy boy? Are you ready? Right. First and foremost, and remember, quick. I want a quick answer, but then we can talk a little bit more about each answer as you give them. What's your favourite flavour of crisp?
Prawn cocktail.
Oh, Matty said that as well. You bunch of weirdos, man. That's a proper left field shout as well. I thought that was weird, but
Nah, mate. Beautiful.
banger. What would be second? What would be second place? Come on.
Smoky bacon.
Oh, where's cheese and onion, man? Sort it out.
Cheese and onion gives you stinky breath, mate.
I don't give a shit, mate. That's not my problem. That's everyone else's problem. What was your favourite TV show growing up as a kid?
Drake and Josh.
Drake and Josh, never heard of it, mate. That's a generation gap.
The viewers.
We've got 5 years, we've got 5 years between us. What was what network was it on? Was that Cartoon Network or what?
Nickelodeon.
Okay.
Sweet, you're 27.
Yeah, I'm 27.
No, that's fine. It's good.
Don't remind me. It's good being 27. What is your favourite sport outside of Formula One? And this is both to play and to watch. So 2 answers.
Football.
It's both, yeah.
Yeah.
What position are you? And don't tell me. I think you are a left back in the changing room. I'm joking. I think you're a centre mid. I'm picturing centre mid.
Well, I don't play that much anymore. I used to be a striker. I'll have you know.
Did you now?
Yeah, I was banging in goals for days. 20 goals a season.
Excellent.
I was.
Obviously.
But since the physicality of football, when you get to men's football, goes up, I've kind of stayed where I was, and I'm just not the force I was back in the past.
the force, James the Force Baldwin. You know what annoys me about like Sunday League, that I don't do it anymore because everyone just wants to snap each other's legs.
Oh.
It's like all these kind of like middle-aged men trying to take out their anger that they can't on their wife and kids, so they just try and snap people in half on Sunday League. I can't be arsed with it, man.
Yeah, and it's just not worth getting an injury now. So,
No.
what about you? Do you play football?
I used to.
Centre back.
I haven't for a long time, but no. I was actually a left back.
Oh, irony.
Because the irony indeed is sweet, mate. I'm right-footed, but my dad always used to train me up on my left because he was left-footed, and he was like, "Oh, you should be both-footed." So I ended up always getting stuck on the left. I was more like a winger. I was actually really quick, even though I don't look it now, and I'm not now. But yeah, I was pretty rapid, mate. Down the wings,
Fair play.
lobbing the goalie. Yeah, good times.
Good times.
Who is your favourite band?
A band called Red. They're like an indie rock band. They're really good.
Is that in terms of that kind of genre? Is that your cup of tea, indie rock?
I'm quite varied, but
Certainly.
recently, yeah, I've been getting into it, or indie rock, Christian rock, whatever you want to call it. I've been getting more into it. So I'd say Red are banging at the moment.
What's Christian rock? Is that when they're like, "Oh Jesus saves us"?
No,
Is that
you can
Christian
search it up after and put it in the video, but it's like a light heart. Well, actually, it's quite heavy, to be fair. It can be quite heavy. It's heavier than indie rock. So, gets me pumped.
Interesting. Gets you. Actually, yeah. Do you have like a routine before a race, or when you're setting up? Do you have certain music that you listen to kind of get you in the zone?
No, it changes depending on the situation. So music I can find actually distracts me and gets my head too like cluttered, but sometimes it gets me in a mood where I'm like, I will really pumped up for it. So yeah, depends.
Listen to a bit like Skrillex if you want to just like take everyone out in the first corner. Get the old adrenaline going.
Kick it.
Yeah, exactly. What a banger that was. Okay, now James has found himself on death row because I don't know, he didn't perform and Veloce decided it was time. What would be your final meal?
God.
What are we thinking?
No, it needs a lot of thought though. It can't just be any old
you take
meal.
your time. Take your time. This is an important decision, mate. This is very, very important.
I'm gonna say, and it's probably not the answer people want to hear, but I'm gonna go for a big and tasty meal from McDonald's.
Damn. I mean, why wouldn't people want to hear that?
They just probably wanted something a bit more classy, something a bit more, a bit more healthy. But
scallops on a bed of quinoa potatoes or some shit like that.
Yeah.
But
garnished in a tartar sauce. But no, I'm going to go for boneless banquet maybe. Boneless banquet from KFC. I just had a thought. Ooh. That's definitely the one.
KFC gravy, rate or not?
Nah.
Are you, mate? I'm afraid we're going to have to end this podcast. KFC gravy is the nectar of the gods. I'm sorry, I will hear nothing otherwise.
Nah, no, it doesn't do it for me. Corn on a cob.
Wow.
I'm all about it, but that gravy is nasty, mate.
Yeah. Bruv, come on. I'm going to bleep that because that should never be
explicit.
Aired. That is very explicit. I don't mind you swearing, but I didn't say anything about that. Right. Dream holiday destination.
Ooh. Now, I'm going to say this because I'm at an age where I want to go and I haven't been yet and I want to go soon. I'm going to say Ibiza.
Decent. Yes, Ibiza's nice.
Is it?
Ibiza's good. Yeah, beautiful.
I'm jealous.
Really nice. Very nice. Yeah. I didn't go on a lads holiday. It was years ago. But yeah, it was. It's good fun, man.
Yeah,
it's good fun. Is there, in terms of with your job and your career now, and you've mentioned previously about the traveling side of things, have you actually got to, when you go to the US or you go into all these different events, do you get much time to actually experience these places?
Not really. There is the odd. It's random, to be fair. If there's a free evening, then I remember when we first went into America, we landed in Vegas, and we did have the whole evening free. So we just went and had a look and sussed it out. It was cool. But then some evenings, like in LA, for example, we literally went to LA, did a race, went straight off. So it's random, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Fair enough, mate. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Dogs. Any particular type of dog?
Jack Russell.
Ah, cute. Have you got any pets?
I've got a hamster.
Ah, what's his name or her name?
Her name is Harry.
Oh, like Harriet.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Harry is a boy's name. Oh wait, no.
The thing is, we didn't get to name her because it was about a year ago now where the pet store already named her and they were insistent that she kept her name. So
what?
Yeah, weird.
What weird pet store, man. All right, tea or coffee?
Tea.
How English of you. I hate tea.
With milk, 2 sugars.
Oh, fair. Is that how many do you have a day? Are you one of these who?
No.
It's
just, usually in the morning. I should have had one for this podcast, but I forgot.
Oh, fuming. I can tell, mate. Alcoholic beverage of choice. What are you going for?
Oh, that is a good question.
Come on, mate. Mr. Club.
Long Island iced tea, bruv.
Long Island iced tea. Interesting. Very interesting. And what about a less like if we're talking like a beer or cider or wine, like less of a cocktail thing, just that kind of, something you pick up at Tesco.
Yeah, probably dark fruit strongbow.
I can't say I'm surprised, James. Come on, mate. Dark fruit strong. You're one of them with dark fruits, lad. Like it.
Yeah, I gotta love a dark fruit. But I mean, if it was gonna be a lager, then just Peroni, something like that.
Fair. Not Corona, no.
I don't mind Corona if it's got lime.
Literally, like yesterday, I went to Tesco and you bloody queuing up outside with the social distancing, walk in, and then there's just this wall of Corona as soon as I walk in. the drink, not the virus. It was quite amusing. Not gonna lie. And then last question in the quickfire round: who is your favourite F1 eSports driver to like hang with? Who's your boy?
Danny Beresnay, the Hungarian guy. Because
what's he like?
Aside from being with him at the race events and stuff, he's a lovely bloke. But I went to Budapest for my mates last year, and we went for 3 days, and Danny tagged along with us because he lives in Budapest.
Oh, nice.
And
yeah,
mate, it was a different side to him. I saw it was brilliant. We went to various clubs and stuff, and it was so good. He gave us a tour of Budapest, showing us bits we probably wouldn't have seen if we were on our own. Yeah. He's brilliant, really good, and really annoyingly fast as well.
He is. He always seems to be right up there, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, on the F1 game, he's just got something on lockdown which he can produce whenever he needs it, and it's just, I need to catch up.
Decent. Actually, in terms of like the games, what would you say? Because obviously you've been able to translate your skills from like Project Cars, Gran Turismo, F1 game, blah blah blah. What game do you think you are best at?
Ooh.
What game, if you had to rate yourself to like, I'm going to win something, like what game would you be playing?
Project Cars 2 or Assetto Corsa.
Mm-hmm. Decent.
But the aim is to be the one on F1. That is the aim now.
That's the aim, really. That's the focus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then who would you say actually is, who do you think right now, because again, I know this is kind of going to be changing all the time, who's for you number one in F1 eSports right now?
Obviously, Taniz is the champion, isn't he? But and let's not forget, it's so close at the top.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I'd say, in my opinion, the quickest driver is either Danny Beresnay or Frederick Rasmussen.
Mm-hmm.
I know they didn't win, but I think they have a slight edge over Tunisia.
Them two always seem to be at the top, to be fair, so that's fair.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, got a few roundup questions and then we'll be done. So, first of all, you are flung in charge of Formula One, which, could happen. You never know. Stranger things have happened. You are James Carey. You've got the moustache. What would you change about modern Formula One? What if you had one rule that you could, it could be about the racing, it could be behind the scenes, it could be to do with the production, the TV production. What do you think could be a lot better? What do you think you would change if you were given that responsibility?
Very easy question to answer, and it'd just be equal cars.
Really?
The same
so you'd
chassis.
make it a spec series?
Yeah.
Controversial.
I would. I mean, I don't see. It doesn't make any sense why every series up to Formula One is the same spec, and then you go to F1 and it's like it's all over the gaff. So I just don't get it. So I think the racing would be better. I think the top drivers would come through. I think there wouldn't be the issue with demotivation of teams like Williams. They're never going to compete with Mercedes because of budget. There wouldn't be any of that. So I think it makes sense.
Interesting, mate. Because obviously, the counter argument to that is that obviously, F1's always been the pinnacle of development, and it adds that kind of team element to it. Because obviously, as you like, motorsport. Well, I guess again something that is unique to eSports, and obviously more it exists within spec series too, but for you to perform, it's kind of all on you. Whereas obviously in Formula One, you can be the best driver in the world, but if you're in a rubbish car, you're going to be sat at the back. So there is obviously the argument that the the development of things. But I definitely think spec racing would be a lot more competitive for sure, and ultimately that's what's going to bring the people in, right?
Well, yeah, I don't know. Well, I just think in my head it makes sense. But you're right, there is the whole technological car side of it and whatever. And it is interesting, having Ferrari like, oh my God, their engine's so good, having those conversations. But I just think, just maybe try it out for a year, see how it goes.
Yeah, no, I think that. And to be fair, actually, given the state of the world at the moment and how that's going to have long-term impacts, and there's been a lot of talk about teams not being able to make it work. Maybe this is a good time to try that. Maybe for like next season to be like, okay, look, right, we're going to keep costs as low as possible. We'll have a standard chassis for everyone. You can have your different engines, basic aero changes, but maybe that's a good opportunity to do it.
I don't think they will, but
No.
yeah, it is a good opportunity to do it.
And then obviously the next 10, 20, 30 years, Formula One, you've got the electric revolution that's coming. So outside of eSports, in terms of the future of Formula One and how that will change, how do you see that changing from a technological standpoint? Do you see it merging with Formula E maybe? What's your kind of thoughts?
I don't know. They've gone to the hybrid, haven't they? But I hope they don't go fully electric, because I just don't think it's the same. Even though it's a 1.6 turbo, it still sounds cool. I know it doesn't sound as good as it used to, but it adds to the whole scene and the atmosphere. And yeah, if they go electric, can they go as fast? Can they produce the same noise? They can't. So I don't think they should merge Formula E. If they need to be more eco-friendly, then there must be ways of doing it while keeping an engine, and let's be honest, how much of a difference does it actually make having 20 cars on an electric system in terms of, or compared to a normal engine? It doesn't make too much of a difference. So I think keep it on the way it's going with this new ownership of Formula One. I think it's going really well. It's more exciting than it used to be. Yes, there's dirty air and there's certain issues they can get round and they can try and solve them. But I think it's on a good path at the moment, Formula One.
Yeah, no, I think it's, what frustrates me about this whole conversation around the eco-friendliness, blah, blah, blah. The emissions from, even you go back to like the V12 era, of the actual cars on the track is not even a recognisable fraction of the overall emissions of a worldwide motorsport that's sending things all over the world in air freight, in boats, whatever. That's where it's such a political thing to have the cars be, because the emissions from the cars now is tiny. It's not even recognisable really compared to the actual. If you wanted to make real change, it would be in terms of the logistics and that side of things, and maybe having it so the teams don't have to send so much stuff around the world, that everything can be organised by the tracks, maybe in terms of the basics. And because you see that they send sea freight 3 months in advance to all the different tracks for the basic stuff like chairs and stuff like that. Again, sea freight is pretty much as low as you can get in terms of the carbon emissions, which is great. But again, if you want to make real change rather than just politically, the cars have to be electric, then you would do so much more by addressing all of that stuff rather than actually changing the cars.
It's all for the cameras and stuff. They're changing the cars because they're at the forefront, but that's not the issue. So
no.
Yeah,
it's not the real problem. But and then finally, James, last question: what is your favourite livery in the 2020 grid of the new batch?
McLaren.
Interesting.
Yeah, I like.
Has that changed since it dropped, or have you always liked it?
No, I've always liked it. I like that light blue to orange contrast. I think it's very nice. I like what McLaren are doing at the moment as well. They're changing things. They're going into the future a bit with their drivers and stuff. So, yeah, I like what McLaren are doing. I like their livery as well.
Yeah. And then what would you say is the worst livery? Which do you rate the least? Any particular bum notes going on?
What? Racing Point? Yeah, Racing Point.
Yeah, it's dead, isn't it? It's horrible
Dead
with the angled BWT nonsense. Actually, talking to this as well, what's your favourite F1 car of all time, you know, what comes to mind immediately when you think Formula One? What's your kind of most iconic?
2005 Renault.
Good shout.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, it's nice.
I'll rate that. Fernando's title-winning car.
Beautiful.
Well, mate, we are done. It's flown by, man.
What time is it?
Yeah, it
Oh
is,
my word.
27 minutes past 10.
Jesus Christ. All right. Well, that was good, mate. Yeah, flew by. Really good fun.
Yeah, did, mate. Well, thank you. As I said before,
what?
thank you so much. What do you mean I've frozen?
Where
What?
have you gone?
Oh, no, you've
Are you
frozen.
joking?
Well, I can still hear you, so it's not the end of the
Oh,
world.
sorry, mate. Literally, you just froze.
Oh, you're fine now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did as well. Brilliant. Yeah, mate. No, thank you. Honestly, thank you for taking the time.
No, pleasure for
really
having.
appreciate it.
Honestly, pleasure coming on, mate. Cheers for having me.
What have you got up to the rest of today?
I've
much
got
planned?
some practice, do a bit of fitness, and do a bit of YouTube stuff.
Decent. Yeah, obviously, I'll be sure to link your channel. I know. Give yourself a little 10, 15, 20-second sales pitch.
So my channel is got content for online racing, real racing, tutorials, stuff about me. So it's just worth going over and subbing to it, really.
Yeah, mate. Everyone, go and give him some love.
Please, I need it.
Much appreciate that. And yeah, this he's got something special that not many other people can deliver on YouTube. So, you know, anyone can make a list, like I said, but you know, if you want to learn how to get to the top, then
nah, mate, you're
James is your
very
man.
modest. You're killing it. Well done. I like what you're doing at the moment. I pretty much watch most of your videos as well.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. No, I noticed you were in my subs, so I was like, oh, that's actually a great shout, hitting James on, because you know I want to get a variety and some different people on here. So yeah, man, thanks again.
No worries.
And yeah, we'll call it a day. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers, mate.